So once Cohen is done on Capitol Hill, what are the next steps for the committees that are investigating the president? Joining me right now, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland. He was one of the lawmakers questioning Michael Cohen yesterday. Congressman, thanks for coming in.
Happy to be with you.
So after yesterday, do you believe, Michael Cohen, that the president committed crimes while in office?
Absolutely. He brought documentary evidence with him. So he clearly was directly involved in supervising the hush money payoffs to the various mistresses. Yesterday, we also learned that the president's lawyers reviewed the testimony that Michael Cohen gave to Congress, which was false and perjurious, and which he's going to prison for. So we set the table for the Intelligence Committee today to follow up on that, to figure out exactly which lawyers. We heard from Michael Cohen, who's Jay Sekulow, were involved and what specifically they did to alter or doctor his testimony to change the dates about the Moscow project. Because remember, the Republicans who were jubilant in reviewing the fact that Michael Cohen is a convicted liar failed to tell everybody what he was convicted of lying for. He was lying for the president in saying that the president had stopped being involved in the Moscow Tower negotiations in January of 2016 when it went all the way through the summer, I think it was. And so it appears like the president himself, through his lawyers, was involved in the decision to commit that false testimony.
I've got another question about the Moscow project in just a second. But if you believe that the president has committed a crime, and this relates to the hush money payments, during his time in office, what do you do next?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, that's the dilemma that the Congress and the country face right now. I mean, we have a president who very clearly has tried to turn the government of the United States into a money-making operation, as Mr. Cohen described it, who's been a cheat, a fraud, a tax fraud, committed insurance fraud, all of these various crimes. But, on the standards of the Republicans and the Clinton administration, we would clearly be running full-fledged into an impeachment campaign. They impeached Bill Clinton over telling one lie about sex. But, we have a higher standard.
So do you think that's where this is headed?
No, well, I think we've got a higher standard here. And just because you've statutory crimes doesn't necessarily mean these are high crimes and misdemeanors demanding impeachment within the meaning of the Constitution. We want to see that these are offenses against the character of the Republic and our ability to govern ourselves effectively as a democracy. And that's the hard question that the Democrats soberly are going to confront. And, I was very proud of the way the majority behaved yesterday. We were much more professional and civil and composed. And the Republicans, all they could do was call Michael Cohen a liar. But of course, as I said, they're not upset that he's lying, that he lied to Congress. They're upset that he stopped lying to Congress. He stopped lying to Congress for the president. And yesterday he told us the truth. So
importantly, though, as you mentioned, the concept of impeachment. From what you heard yesterday, do you hear anything yesterday that you believe you should be investigating as an impeachable offense of the president at this point?
Look, I think it's very serious that the president was involved in committing campaign finance offenses while in the Oval Office, that he was involved in sending himself checks for hush money payoffs, but also organizing the hush money payoffs through various campaign and corporate devices. All of these are campaign finance violations, and that's serious business in terms of getting yourself elected president of the United States. And they do begin to go to the character of what kind of republic we're going to have. But I think we're just scratching the surface in terms of knowing what all of the various offenses were, and we're planning to get to the bottom of each of these lines of inquiry.
Right. So you're not necessarily there yet. Not really. Not there yet. You talked about Jay Sekulow and the Moscow project. This comes down to this moment where Michael Cohen says that his statement to Congress, which he lied, and he has admitted he says the White House looked over it. The White House worked with him on it. Let me play for you that moment.
Which specific lawyers reviewed and edited your statement to Congress on the Moscow Tower negotiations, and did they make any changes to your statement?
There were changes made, additions. Jay Sekulow, for one.
Were there changes about the timing?
There were several changes that were made, including how we were going to handle that message.
Sekulow denies, he says it's completely false that he had any hand in changing the timing and the duration that the Moscow deal was being discussed. Who do you believe?
Well, first of all, there may have been other lawyers involved, as well as Jay Sekulow, and this is what we have to get to the bottom of. Unfortunately, of course, we're limited to 5 minutes questioning, and I think I hit the buzzer right at that point when we were getting to the heart of the matter. But I think that, that my colleagues on the Intelligence Committee today will follow up with that, I hope, and I know that we on the Oversight Committee will follow up with it. We need to know, did the president's lawyers
when you mean
either
follow up, do you mean follow up? Do you want to hear from Sekulow? Do you want to bring Jay Sekulow up or other attorneys? Is that do you expect that to happen before your committee?
Sure. Well, again, I'm not the chair of the committee. I'm just one member of the committee. But we absolutely need to know, were the president's lawyers directly involved in the decision to lie to Congress? This is what the Republicans were so upset about yesterday, that he had lied to Congress. So we want to know everybody who was involved in that plot. I think it's very unlikely that Michael Cohen just decided to do it on his own. He was clearly acting as an agent of the president. And, but, you know, I tend to believe that the president's lawyers coached him in the right direction and helped to shape the message that was in the testimony.
There was almost unanimous reporting, Congressman, that Michael Cohen wanted a role in the Trump White House, and this was somewhat of a focus in the hearing yesterday. Did he want a job in the Trump White House? He says he did not. Even SDNY had cited the fact that he had wanted a job in the White House. Michael Cohen denied it over and over again yesterday under oath. Do you think he perjured himself?
No, I mean, look, first of all, the whole question is an irrelevant distraction. I mean, the things that he was talking about, he brought documentary evidence to support.
And more gets to credibility, if you will. If he wants to quibble or lie about something like this, then what else do you believe?
He has no incentive to be lying at this point, and everything he said was perfectly internally consistent and coherent. Remember, the Republicans are upset because he stopped lying for the president. I mean, there are so many people in the president's circle now who are going to jail, who've been indicted, who have faced convictions. I mean, look at Manafort and Page, and look at Stone, and so on and so forth. They're not upset about any of those people. It's only when you go against the president that they get upset. They don't really want to call him a liar. They want to call him a renegade or a traitor, because they want the people to remain completely loyal to the president and walk the plank with them. And I was impressed by this guy who's a hardcore Republican. I think he's the vice chair for finance of the Republican National Committee, who said, I'm going to stop lying.
Michael Cohen, he's not a hardcore Republican, I can tell you that. He was a Democrat. He couldn't even vote for Trump in New York because he had not changed his party affiliation.
Doesn't he have an official position at the Republican National Committee?
Yes, and he only became a Republican. He became a Republican only in order to hold that position. Yes, I agree with you. Well, it is slightly confusing. I just wanted to be clear. Keep going.
It's not very confusing to me, because the guy was a loyal Trump partisan for more than 10 years. And my point is that I would love it if some Republicans came with us and said, let's actually ask him some questions to find out what happened. But none of them were asking questions about President Trump. They were all meant to try to beat up on Michael Cohen. I thought it was an absurd and embarrassing exercise on their part.
It sounds like you've got a lot more questions now. I am interested to see what moves your committee makes next.